my notes. I remember. It was
Yeah,
so
I actually do remember this one. It's been a week and I remember
so
it.
bad.
Hello, everyone. We'll get started in just a little bit. If you're joining us, come on in and say what you were currently reading. So, you want to go first? What are you reading right now?
I am actually reading Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillick right now from my library. So,
How is that? I know it's a
it's
sequel,
good.
right?
Yeah, I'm only on the 80 pages, so it's about 450 pages. I think it's a longer than the first one, but
Mm.
um, it's good so far. I just want to get it. It's starting to get the action part where I'm like, okay, finally. I'm
Oh,
excited.
yeah. Sometimes it takes a while, right? Especially for those, aren't they gothic? So, like, to me,
It's
it
like a
was like
dark
slow.
atmospheric. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I am trying to read, but it's been difficult the last couple of days for some reason. Never Met a Duke by Amelie Howard. I got the arc for that one and I was like, oh, I should probably read this before the book comes out next week. But I'm not having a lot of luck with historicals right now, so I'm just so not in the mood. I don't know what it is. So not in the
Yeah,
mood.
I'm in the mood for The Bride, so that's what I'm really looking forward to. So I want to read The Bride this month by Julie
Yeah.
Garwood.
I
So
saw that. I saw you were gonna read that. And I think I have that one on Scribd. I have that one on Scribd, but I just haven't picked it up.
so it's like fantasy right now.
But I'm really not reading that much right now. I'm in the middle of watching Alice in Borderland. Have you ever watched that? Okay.
No, I think is there.
It's kind of Squid Game-ish. Kind of like Squid
Oh
Games. Did you
gosh,
ever watch that one?
I watched like 30, like I think we watched like 5 minutes of it. We couldn't take it anymore.
Really? Oh my
I couldn't
gosh.
do it. I just couldn't
Okay.
do it.
I
It was a baby.
we loved Squid Game, and then this one is a similar thing where hi Nikki.
Kind of
um
cute. I didn't see where.
this boy and his friends get kind of like sucked into another world where they have to play games to survive and stuff like that. And if they win, they get a reprieve for a few days, but then they have to go into another game where they could die. And I'm on the second season now. It's really good. But it is another, I think it's they're in Tokyo. So I want to say it's Japanese. But it's voiceover. It's dubbed. This one is. So no reading. No reading required for this one. But I'm enjoying it. So I'm kind of like sucked in. So at night when everyone goes to sleep, I'm like, ah, let me watch an episode. So yeah. Anyways, do we want to go ahead and get started?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Um First off, should we talk about these books separately? Because there's three.
Um,
We'll quickly go over the novellas.
yeah, quickly over novellas.
Okay,
Well,
The Scepter.
you guys, the scepter. I enjoyed that one more than I did the sword,
Agreed.
but I enjoyed both. I enjoyed both of them. I think the scepter really had more of I think especially if you go into the first book, into the actual book, the novel, reading the scepter is like a must, I
I agree.
think.
I
But
agree.
reading,
At
I think
least The
at the same
Scepter.
time, both of them are very important though too, because I think it also shows like the sword, the dichotomy between the hero and how he is now, because then it kind of gives you that backstory of on how he's treating the heroine. So the scepter was great. I loved traveling stories. So her and her relationship with her brother, which is I loved seeing that relationship, and then also just you don't know what exactly happened, and it's great that we don't see that until the novel, until the book later in the novel. So I think that was great. But just basically, I'm just going to be gushing about this whole thing because like this was the
Yeah.
first time that I actually enjoyed a novella to where I think The Scepter is probably like a 5 star for me, and The Sword was a 4 star. That's like unheard of
Oh,
for me to enjoy a
wow.
novella. So yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
loved it.
I also loved The Scepter. The Sword I could do without.
Sorry, Nikki. Yeah, just a little teaser spoiler.
Yes. Okay, we should say right now there will be spoilers. There will be
Yeah,
spoilers. We'll do our best not to give away the end, but there will be spoilers.
at least the novella. We're gonna talk. The novella is gonna have its spoilers. Yeah, if you haven't read those. So yeah,
Yeah, so I agree. The Scepter, you kind of get a really great backstory as the prologue in the Scepter. Heartbreaking. You
I know.
know right away her whole coven, she's a witch. Her whole coven is killed, massacred, completely massacred. And her brother are running away to go to the seer, which she was supposed to do to find her fate. So there's a lot of stuff about fates in this one, which I thought was interesting. I kept picturing,
It's great. It's interesting how the fates play into this whole world building.
yeah, the whole war in
Hmm.
the other country where she ran off to. I keep picturing the creatures from Marvel, like the where the hole opens up in the sky and the creatures are coming through. Like that's what I kept picturing. Like those gigantic worm things, you know? I really loved it. My notes on the scepter was Dawn. Like Dawn is the name she chose for him. I was
I
like,
know that was
really?
weird.
Might as well have been Bob. And
Oh,
then oh, I really wanted to know what her fate was, but then when you read of crowns and wait, crown of
the
oaths and
crown.
curses,
Yeah.
you find out right away what her fate is. So the sword, so boring to me. I was
It was
so
more of a
bored.
slog. It
And
was more of a slog. Yeah.
it was I still gave it a 3, it was fine. Like, it was fine to me. But I feel like the 2 main things you need to know from the sword is that, his family was also killed, so his mom and his dad, and, his uncle is regent, and he cannot collect his crown until he finds his fated mate, which is her. Which you find out it's her.
Until he marries her, I think, or something like that, right?
Yeah, so for the novellas, I gave the Scepter 4, and then the, Sword a 3. So, I enjoyed them so much. They were really good. I think the Scepter was just better for me because again, I love that journey as
Yeah.
well. Like, I love the road trip stuff. So,
Yeah, I like that too. It felt very almost this.
sorry. I'm like telling my husband, "Get the dog out of here."
It felt very epic, and of course, anyone needs to know that the first book there is no like romance part. It's like a slow build romance, which I love. Those kind of when
0.
it like builds the in that slow burn and like it builds the backstory so that when it finally happens, it's like epic and like more tension and angsty. Like that's why I love it. And I think it almost felt like very Lord of the Rings to me. That's the only comparison I can have. It's probably a horrible comparison, but it just felt like in the forest and everything. You know, when they're
Right off the
traveling,
bat,
that's
it
what it
feels
felt
epic.
like. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like an epic fantasy.
Yeah.
And her
Right off.
writing, of course, this is basically put her as one of my top do like favorite authors because her writing was just perfect. It was like it was right there. Like even though this was a slow build, her writing never felt like it was a slog in the novel, but like in the sword it felt a little bit, but it just felt like everything was intentional and there was a reason for the slow build. And like for me, as long as there's a reason and you're not repeat a lot of repetition, there was a reason for the scene to be happening. And I'm like, this was just, and it was a long book. It's like what 600 something on my Kindle, but I'm like, it was just,
And let me tell you,
I
I
don't
was
know.
reading it slow too. Like it
Yeah,
I was taking forever to read it because
you have
I
to
found
you have
myself
to let
doing
it.
that.
Yeah,
Yes, I find
you have
myself
to
doing the
enjoy
thing
it.
that I always do. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying it. It's that I literally read a chapter and I have to just like sit in it and think about it and let it soak into my body and my brain and and then I can move on and like I couldn't just run through it. It was literally letting it engulf me. And maybe we should just lead into that. What was our rating for Crown of Oaths and Curses, which I'm assuming we're both giving this 5 stars.
Oh yeah, it's 5 star plus what my little special thing where I put it as an all-time fave little mark, like my little
You giving
100
it six
mark on my
stars?
Insta. Yeah, basically it's a 6 star for me. So I'm like, I'm hoping the second book is just as great, and it's killing me that I have to wait for the book to release. But yeah.
As I was reading this, I was like, oh my God, this is finally going to be a ship of bones and teeth for the top spot of the year. Like, this is my favorite of the year. Like, it really was. I was
Mhm.
in it. I was in it.
Yeah, it's gonna be in my top 10, that's for sure.
Yeah, the hate in this. Let's talk about the hate because it was
Yeah.
palpable. Like, I
It was hard to read sometimes too.
it was hard to read sometimes because and how do you feel about the hero right now? Because I hate him.
Obviously, and I think I'm supposed to hate him right now. I'm supposed to
You're
not like
supposed to hate
him,
him.
and
Yeah.
that's the whole point. And I think eh, I would hate him even more if I didn't read the sword because I know like at one point, but then now I'm seeing I almost hate him a little more because I can see his hypocrisy and how he was when she was like when he expected her to be another elf or fae person, or not elf, but yeah, fae person. But
Yeah,
now
he
that
thought
she's
she was
witch,
trapped away, but she wasn't a
she's
helpless
now that
maiden.
now she's not worthy of him. I'm like, sorry, you're not worthy of her. Excuse me. And
You're
I'm like,
not.
I just love when she said, "You're gonna regret this, and you're gonna have to beg to me." And I'm like, "Yes, girl, say it. Yes,
I was loving
do it."
it. I was loving it. I also like but the way he treats her when he first sees her and how she does that little mind thing of his name and then she just cuts it off. She's like, I'm not talking to this person anymore in our mind. Like, I'm not going to do that connection because it's too intimate. And we know that now we're enemies. And he doesn't even let her sit on his horse or any of his like accompanies horses. Like, he calls her it. Like, oh my God,
Yeah,
it's not riding with me. And then he throws her in a dungeon weeks, months. Who knows? This
and
feels like a
basically
long
and
time.
expecting her to basically go insane because like anybody kept in captivity like that would go insane with no sunlight and things like that. But I loved it that the jokes was on him because she's like, "I'm a witch.
And my connection
This
is to
is
the earth, and
this
you
is
just put me in the earth.
you just know the witches that have lost their way and are not representative of like the true earth witches that are like this is me connected already." I'm like,
And they don't know anything about witches, and like you kind of realize why he doesn't like witches, right? They killed his whole family and that kind of thing. But there's a clear difference between her and the witches that are attacking his kingdom. Like, absolutely you can hate the witches that are attacking your kingdom. They're rabid. They almost seem like they're in a trance, in a, in a daze, that kind of thing. They're foot soldiers. But she's different. And he treats all witches the same and he wants to wipe them off the face of the earth. Like, let's be
full
honest, he's
genocide, yeah.
committing genocide. Like,
Hmm.
absolutely. And
But
like,
in the same time, and doesn't realize that you doing that is the whole reason why the kingdom and the earth is like why nature is depleting is because no one
right,
only the witches were doing the sacrifices before. You weren't
right.
there first. The witches
And I
were
got
there
the
first.
sense that the high fae were, but they lost their way well before the witches were doing it. Like,
Yeah,
I think
they
they were
the
doing
witch
it thousands of years ago.
Yeah, the witches were like there first, especially the witches of what's her coven's name. They were the very first ones. They actually came from the trees or something like that. It was like the myth or whatever is from that.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like they taught the Fae how to do it, but then the Fae along the way stopped doing it, and only
Yeah.
it became on the witches relied upon to do that to
Mhm.
replenish. But I know I think what I liked about most was fit like her being in the dungeon and that kind of like just actually building her strength and her power
Mhm.
was like that was kind of like a symbolic of like her internal strength and that whole like you're kind of not reserved but just you're kind of just in a place where you're like yeah you know what that you're not evil and that you're in the right and you're you know righteous or whatever people say but you're not that internal strength she's not falling for the baiting of her treatment of and their words and their
She's
actions.
resigned. She's
Yeah,
resigned
yeah.
to her fate, that her fate is to be with this person that hates her. And so she has no fight in her left. And she's like, well, the alternative is a war that happened like I just got out of. That was the worst thing of my life. And so she's like, well, this dude, even though he sucks, sitting in this dungeon is like not as bad as that. So yeah,
Yeah,
she's
because she's like,
quite
I
resigned
yeah,
and
she ran
accepting of
away.
whatever's going to happen. Like if he kills me, he kills me. At least I've stopped this other alternative from happening, which I thought was just like why she was so complacent and why she wasn't fighting up anything that they said. They might as well have spit on her. You know what I mean? Like they were awful to her. Did you catch that the only time he touched her was when he grabbed her by the throat and tried to strangle her? That's the only time he
Mhm.
touched her in this entire book.
Mountains, yeah. Mhm. And it was kind of interesting because it was the same time, it was nice because she was both mad. Even though she was resigned to her fate, she still didn't like the fact that she was fated to be with him. And he was like, it was all good until he figured out that she was a witch, and then he hated the fact that he was drawn to her, and so that's why he kept his distance and like he just wanted to see her as other and evil and whatever, and like all the she's the reason for all my problems, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's the representation, the symbol of these witches that are putting this whole like horrible catastrophe
And he
on our
still
land and
thinks
whatever.
the fates are playing a cruel joke on him. like like
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
like
But I
uh,
think it's great because they're like the fates were like patience, and I'm like I thought it was cool. Like I didn't realize like in this world, witches and fae can live for centuries, I guess, based upon because she's like 200 years old at this point.
yeah, she's
Um,
200 years old and he's well over 1,000 because he had to wait 1,000 years. So, and
yeah,
he
like
was hundreds of
900 and
years old.
something years,
Yeah.
yeah.
So both of these people
And
are like crazy old.
but at the same time, I'm like, this is kind of it's funny how like the fates do that, but at the same time, it's like you had to learn patience. And it's funny because he still has to learn patience. He doesn't know it. That like it's gonna slowly creep on, like realizing that he has to keep patience. And like, of course, with her fate, she ran away in the beginning. We know that that's what happened, and
And we
she
know
came
that
back.
she had to
Yeah,
have that time to build up who she was,
correct.
to
She had to be
become a
ready,
badass.
and that's what the fate said. You'll be ready, but you're yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
This whole book, I could just gush for about this freaking book for
I love
hours.
this
It
book.
was so freaking good. Um, the
I
trees.
can't believe like people aren't talking more about it. That's
I
amazing.
me too. Like honestly, this is some epic like it's on the same epic scale to me as ACOTAR like is. Like it's that epic. Like the love
Yeah,
story isn't there yet,
but that's
but
good.
I
Yeah.
didn't mind. I didn't mind at all.
I like it's different because at the same time, you wouldn't know it's a romance until you're probably going to, I'm guessing, the second one. But I think it's intentional, obviously, and I think it's actually well done because for me, all of the fantasies that I've loved, like as a YA fantasy one, is when the romance was built over the books. And when that happened, it felt so much more of an impact when it's that way, especially when you're following the same couple throughout the time. So it's very rare that you can feel a little burnt out a little bit on that. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's epic. And I'm like, it should, it's right
This
up
one is
there. It should be
definitely
talked about more.
100% more fantasy than romance in it. There's just absolutely no romance in it. And that's why I think this book is really good for the fantasy lover because I mean, you get the politics. You get the deception. You
The
have
world
these
building,
magical elements in it. One thing again I wanted to talk about was the trees, about how she can speak to the trees because she is as a witch, she's very tied to nature and the earth. And again, they sacrifice to the earth, and the earth gives back. And I love how one of the guys can speak to the trees, but he sees it as madness, like like things are going bad because he doesn't understand what they want. and that's because they've lost their way. And then once she kind of they trust her a little bit and she's able to go back to the forest where she was, and then they give their sacrifice, and now he all of a sudden is not going mad anymore. And I just loved that whole thing. Like you said in the beginning, Lord of the Rings, I kept picturing the trees, like the wasn't that in the Lord of the Rings where he's like riding around in the trees?
Oh gosh, what were they called? I think they're called or something. I forget they start with an E or
Trance?
something. Rants
Trance
or
or
something.
something, or trance or
I
something?
forget what they're called, but
There's a word
yeah,
for it, right? Yeah. I forget what they're called too. But
there's there are people called something. Yeah,
I
I forget what
also
they're
I know one of the questions she has was why didn't the trees warn them when someone was going to massacre her family? I don't think that was answered.
They were tricked by because remember you had to make a sacrifice, and then
Yeah.
you find out the witch that murdered their family was the guy leading. What's his name? I forget his name. The guy that is leading the witches, and all because he attacked
Oh,
them because of his fate was because a witch from her coven was going to kill him, and that was basically her. So he created his
right.
own fate to happen because of his
Oh,
act.
okay, that's what it was. I maybe was just a little fuzzy on that because I was like, I don't. Did they even answer that? I now I
Yeah,
remember
they
you
were
saying
tricked
he was
because he
tricked, but
sacrificed. He was a witch, and they were
got,
tricked into letting him in the forest. So,
gotcha,
right.
gotcha. Oh, one of the notes I have is I wonder if all the stuff about giving back to the land and listening to the earth and giving back to it has any parallels with real world climate stuff. Like, you know, how we take a lot from land, like the trees in the Amazon and, you know, overfishing waters and, you know, a lot of the stuff. Like, it kept making me think about that kind of stuff. Like, you know,
Me too. I was like thinking the parallels. I'm like, how and that's why I like fantasy as well. Is like a lot of the times, a lot of things can be answered, or you can get a new perspective because it's in a fantasy fiction story. You can see that parallels in your real world, and I thought that like was a great thing of like, yeah, we just take, but we don't replenish.
you have
Um,
to give. Yeah, you have to give
to give
back.
back.
If you're gonna cut a tree down, plant another one in its place, that kind of thing.
In
Yeah.
farming practices, you have to turn your soil in a different place. You can't keep reaping of the soil and you're taking all the nutrients out of the soil. So you're gonna start having a what's it called?
Barren land, just I
Oh
don't
god,
know.
barren lands and things like that, and you're gonna
Yeah.
have a food need for
Yeah.
that in future. So
I know when I'm
yeah.
gardening now, that's a big thing too. When you're done with a crop or whatever, you do actually need to feed it, like replenish the soil in a way. And you can't just put more soil there, like, you know, like that's the
And
thing
you
with
have
a
to
lot
like
of farming
there's
practices.
crop rotation as well as a thing as well because you get to plant different things in that soil as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Like there's
the
certain
other
things that are heavier feeders than others. So, you know,
Mhm.
different types of plants. Like I didn't know you could actually just leave the roots in the ground of tomatoes. Like if you just cut the plant off the base, the roots
Mhm.
will die in the soil and that provides nutrients as it breaks down back into the soil. Like that's one of the things I'm learning right now too. And
That's awesome.
I found it really interesting. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, I just pulled that shit out. I was like, oops.
The other thing I was thinking about the whole nature and parallels to our world is also the witches are very similar to obviously for the minority um, people representations in our world. One thing that came to mind was like Native Americans and things like that, and like how that was a big thing on how they still honor the earth and things in their practices and their beliefs, and how they taught the settlers into that. So especially this is November time of year, so Thanksgiving. So it just kind of brings
Yeah.
that into that as well as like the very parallels to that as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you actually have to like set aside your prejudices and speak to people, whether you think they're evil or not, then come to some kind of agreement so you can all live harmoniously together. And what is his name? Soren. Soren is not there. He's not there right now. Even at the end of the book,
um,
he's not right there right now. And I'm like, Jay Bree, you have done your job too well. How are these people going to get together?
I think he's starting to begrudgingly at the end, but I think it's going to be, he's definitely, I have faith that she's going to do a good redemption arc. But I think I have a feeling she's going to make him work for it and he's going to have to go do some hard work for it. So I think that's going to be, I think it's going to be awesome. So
One
I'm
an
just hoping.
entire book of a grovel.
I think that's book of
A
grapple. Here we go.
gigantic grovel novel. I want the grovel novel right now because the end of this is so explosive where there's just no room left for doubt that she is a good person and there to help him. And oh my god, the ending was
She's,
like I was so riveted.
I know she's a healer. Like one thing I was like, well, she's a healer and she's a warrior. Like she is an actual warrior and she's a witch. So it's like it's just a matter of, I'm like, he forgets that like she just spent how many years in a war. She is not just your run of the mill. She's an actual soldier. So it was kind of
Yes.
like really interesting. And I love like seeing that because not when somebody's like already starting as like, oh, they're great at everything, but I just like seeing when a character has to, you see the fruits of their labor, but you see them through that struggle. So now you see like, yes, they have earned all this awesome power that they are able to do, and now you're able to see them like handle all that. So, but yeah, that ending. Oh my
That
god.
ending. Well, you mentioned it already, what she told him, you're gonna beg for this." And I, like, still, even at the end, he could not speak to her. He could not touch her in any way. Not that she wanted him to, but, like, man, it was just ugh, the tension, the angst, and I just really my god, it was exceptional, exceptional. Um, Side characters. Uh, I love the sister. The sister,
The
the one that had the baby.
Yes, what's her name? I am so horrible with names. I'm
Ah,
sorry. Go ahead.
I literally just label her as the sister, but I'm also horrible with names. I freaking love her. I love how I just love when that side character that just tells you like it is and tells you when you're being an ass, and, like, that is a sister to me. Even though everyone's supposed to be like, "Yes, sir," to,
You're the
Prince
magic. You're the king. Yeah,
Charming, yeah,
you're going to
um
be king.
Yeah, he has his inner circle where he, like, lets them be a little bit more free with their words and, listens to their advice, sort of. He, like, listens to it, doesn't take it, but, I just the storyline with the baby and the sister losing her first baby was so hard. Um,
Hmm.
I almost cried twice in this book.
I do.
Did you cry? I almost cried. I don't
Almost.
cry, and I
I don't
almost
cry
cried.
either. But almost. The
I
baby
I
thing was like, oh, because that's a
the
personal thing.
There huge trigger warnings in this book for loss, child loss,
Hmm.
and,
Hmm.
grief in this book.
Not
But it
only,
was
not only like her grief, but like there's a lot of grief and everyone is dealing with it in some shape or form.
everyone is
I
dealing
felt
with
like,
it,
yeah,
and, when she has the baby even, there's a curse that nobody in the high fae will have a baby, and, when the curse is broken, like, her relief in that, like, when she finally understands that the curse is broken, like, that's what got me. Like, that's what got me.
the
Where
relief
she
and just
kinda
like,
looks at her son as
like,
if he's not gonna
yeah,
die immediately, and he's actually gonna live, like
her shock and her relief. Yeah, that was like, I felt that feeling before, and I'm like, yep, I feel you.
like,
I feel you.
they had nothing together for this baby. They truly believed that the baby was going to die. Like, they had no clothes, no bed, no nothing,
They're just
and
resigned to it.
it killed me. And then, the second time I almost cried was, when she went to the forest and, she was talking about the massacre of her family.
Yes, they see all the flowers. Oh my god.
She sees the flowers where the
It's her sister, and they
where the
realize her
bodies
sister, yes, and her mom.
Oh
Like,
my god.
really, really, Jay Bree, really.
Like, that
Thank you.
destroyed me. I definitely had to stop. I stopped at that point one night and I was like, "Oh my god." Like, I picked it up the next day because I was just like, "Oh
Mm.
god, I can't I
Like,
can't do
yeah,
this."
because like I don't know about you, but like I am a visual reader. Like I can see exactly like it's a movie in my head, and I'm like, I
Yes.
was just like, dang, Jay
Damn.
Bree, jeez.
Yeah.
Like her brother, like her little brother, and like her mom being in the house, and I'm like nursing her new, like I think it was her new sister.
Was nursing a baby and she
They're like a baby. I'm like, dang. And
oh,
then
like,
his
they killed
and the
everybody.
husband trying to get to her. I'm like, geez, guys.
You could
I'm
see
gonna
that
just
his body was
absolve you.
crawling, trying to
Yes.
tell
Their true love and their mate. I'm like, and the whole thing coming full circle of like just because you're fated to have their true love doesn't mean you're promised forever. And I'm like, they
right,
didn't. But at the same time, you know that if they knew about this happening, they still would still be with, want to be together. It was just like, oh gosh. I'm like, Jabri, I think you just hit an arrow in my heart. I'm like, okay, thank you.
serious.
Like,
Now, I read the Bonzatai series before this. I loved that series a lot, but and I think a lot of those books I gave 5 stars. The last one I think I gave a 3, and that was the only one that I gave a low score to. And there were 6 books in that series. She's a better writer in this one. Like,
oh
that's
really?
not
Okay.
written badly. It's not written badly. It is written in the style that you're kind of dumped in that world and trying to figure out as things go along with the characters, and even the characters are confused, so you're going to be confused. But like, I could see how much she has grown as a writer in this one. Like, there's no real world building in that series. This is all world building. Like, that's a
Okay.
lot of it is. Like, and I just love seeing that kind of as a reader of her other books, like taking
Seeing
a
her
lot of
grow.
her action scenes and relationship building skills with those characters. And because in that book too, there's enemies, kind of like enemies to lovers in that one as well, with one of the mates, because that one she has like 4 or 5 mates. And
Gotta love a
like
one choose.
and this one though, she takes it all the way. She just goes there. I kind of love that she went there with the enemies stuff. Like, this is just an enemies book. It's not an enemies to lovers book.
Not yet, yeah. And I think part of it too, like even her side characters, everyone was very intentional and everyone was well-rounded. No one was two-dimensional. And I think
And
that's why this book is
yeah,
like so great, is these people felt like real people.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and
very
all
fleshed out.
and the different at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, even the regent, who we all
Hmm.
know is going to be the big bad. We all know that.
One of the villains, yeah.
One of the villains.
Yeah.
He is even fleshed out, and he's barely in it. Like, but you can just tell from his mannerisms and the way he responds to things who his character is. And like, seriously, bravo. Honestly,
Hmm.
bravo. It's so good.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I don't gosh, I just can't wait for the next one. And like now I'm like, all right, Jay Bree, you just turned into an auto-buy author. I'm like, thanks a lot.
And right? I need to buy this book. Like, for sure I need it
I
on my
know,
shelf.
me too. And
Um
the novellas too. I'm like, I love them. And I think that's one thing people have to read the novellas first. They just have to.
I hate saying
I
that,
feel like,
but I agree. I think the novellas are like important enough, and they're short enough. They're both under
yeah, they're
100
short.
pages
Yeah.
that they're
It's
they're important
it's
enough to
really
the
worth it.
beginning of the story that you should read them. I kind of like that they're in the beginning. Like, you can kind of dip your toes
It's
in with the scepter and see if
yeah.
you like it.
I think that's also part of it. Like I was like when I heard that you mentioned before this that we had to read the novellas. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'll read the novellas. I like novellas, especially when it's like in between the books. Like I usually don't read those unless they got guitar or something. But I'm like okay. But I'm like guys, really. I'm like I don't say this, but like I love novellas. I don't love novellas, but I love these novellas. And I'm like you get more out of it in the beginning. It's
Yeah.
just like it immediately clicks when you know what her fate is, but it has so much more of an impact if you read the novellas first, and especially Soren's character, him,
Yeah.
the main male character.
And I think like the main book is slow moving enough that in the first two novellas, you have that sense of urgency that something wrong is happening and that something big is starting. And it just kind of sets you up into what's going to happen in this book. Like, do I think you absolutely have to read it to read Crown of Oaths and Curses? You don't have to. I don't think you have to in order to understand the main book. But I think you should. Like you 100% should.
You get so much more. It's
Yeah.
just like 80 pages, and you get so much more of on both.
And it's so
The
enjoyable.
main character. Yeah,
It's a good read. I hate
and
novellas
we,
too. I hate the mid ones like the Tahara Mafi series. Like she has all those stupid little novellas of the characters. I hate them. I only read the main one. And I like novellas, but I like single insulated story novellas. Like I like those ones. So as like novellas part of a series, I myself was
yeah.
also like, oh, I have to read the novellas. But I'm really glad I did.
Hmm.
Oh, I have two more notes that we didn't cover. One
Okay.
was like I said, whoa, she's a badass Claire with her herbs. She's like a Claire for Outlander. She's like, but more badass.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, she's
Oh,
out here
her,
mixing them all up.
what was his? Oh gosh, what was that? Was it a? Who were they? That kingdom that she had to get the herbs from. That she was able to. He
The
respected her
Goblin
enough. The
City.
goblins, yeah, they
That
respected
sound
her. Yeah,
yeah. I can't wait to see how that plays into the next book too. The Goblin City. I forget what the name of the city is now too. I'm so bad. I need
and
to start writing down the names of stuff.
so
And
and
then
I
my
wish I could go.
other
I want the physical book so I can go and flip through. I'm like, that's my
I
whole thing. It's like, I need
I
to.
know. I better ask for it for Christmas. And my other one, see if you feel the same. I think Rook could take Resand. Like if they were in a fight, I think Rook would win. Like I think she's more powerful than Resand.
Maybe.
You think so?
I can't see it. I mean, at the snap of a finger, he can splat somebody.
Sh-
So I don't know.
She doesn't have
Can
to
she
say
splat
anything to
somebody?
cast her little magic, and I think she's more like, I'm sorry. I think she could take him because he's
She
so
might,
arrogant. Resand is a little bit more arrogant, and he'd be like underestimate her just like everybody else does.
because
I
he's the
think she
bad
could take
boy,
him.
boily gray bad boy. That's what he is. I know for sure. I do know this. He would be like already. He wouldn't be like Soren and be stupid. He would already automatically respect her immediately because he could
True.
recognize power, recognizes power. So
True. True.
that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh man, I'm really glad we read this book.
I know that was a great idea of yours because I think I like this too. It's just us like randomly picking for next month or whatever. Like, hey,
What floats
let's
our
read
boat, you know what I mean?
fantasy. Let's read a historical. I don't know. It's one
Yeah.
of the two.
Yeah. Let's just read whatever we like. We have a lot of similar books on our TBR. So I was like,
Hmm.
oh, I wonder if you'll read this one. Or like, and I think you're like
Oh,
me, where in
definitely.
the wintertime, I'm just in a fantasy mood. Like, I just always am.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I mentioned before being in, I am wanting to because of all the heavy fantasy I've been reading. I do want to like get a palate cleanser. I'm like, I do want a historical romance, but the only this time of year, I'm more in the mood for a Highlander. Cause like, I tried reading one earlier this year. I'm like, I wasn't in the mood for it, but I just feel like there's something about the fall that makes me
Hmm.
want to read a Highlander historical romance. So
You know what I
I
just
will
finished
probably pick up one of
that
those.
felt like a palate cleanser, but also still kind of in the darker stages of the time of the year. Butcher and Blackbird. I just finished that one a few days ago.
Okay, yeah, I've been
And
hearing things about that. Yeah,
it is absolutely gory and gross and dark, but it's so freaking adorable. Like it's adorably macabre and like In the very beginning, like there's this body that's decomposing and maggots are coming out of it. It's so gross. And she's stuck in a cage and she calls them little orzo pastas marching to her. It was so funny. It was light, but it was gross. It was grossly adorable.
It was
And
it was cutely gross.
it was cutely gross. I wish it was a movie. I don't like rom-coms. Like I don't gravitate toward them. I think it's way too cheesy for me. I would watch the shit out of this. Like I would absolutely
Kind of
watch it.
Like a Dexter kind of thing.
But yes, very Dexterish. Very
Okay.
dexterous because they're serial killers killing serial killers. It's like one of those type of things. But oh, it's adorable. It's adorable. And he falls first. He falls first, head over heels, and he never stops, never quits, never wavers. It's great. You should try it.
I don't think I can. I don't know. Gore is just not my thing. I'm like, I
Oh,
just can't.
there is a lot of
And
blood in this
I'm a
one.
baby. I'm a baby on it. Unless it's, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
it's fun blood though. It's fun blood. True. I won't give away the end. Okay, but the end is great. Okay. I tried to read another rom-com after that. It's called Resurrecting the Witch, and I just DNF'd it because I was just, there was nothing wrong with that book. My mood is
Was it
crazy
really?
right now.
Yeah. That was me. I wanted to read. I was like thinking I was in a mood for a contemporary because my relationship with contemporaries have been iffy lately. But I was thinking, I was like, okay, maybe I'll read this. It was like a sports romance. It's Mile High.
Mm,
I'm like, I was like, I'm not in the mood to read this, and I'm like, I don't want to like rate it low because I know I'm in a mood, in a weird mood. So I soft DNF'd it. But I'm like, I'm just like, I know I'm kind of would need a palate cleanser. So I'm like, historical romance or contemporary because all this fantasy, I need a palate cleanser.
right? All the heavy,
Somebody,
heavy fantasy. That's kind of why I picked up Never Met a Duke Like You because usually historical romance is a perfect palate cleanser for all these heavy fantasies. Romances, even if they're romances, they're usually heavy. But man, I don't know. I can't get into it. I think I'm just too in the beginning part of it, and I just keep reading. Because these books aren't bad at all. Like it's not bad at all. I love this author, so it's just me. Hi,
yeah.
I'm the problem.
Sweet.
It's me.
Yeah, I was thinking of starting. It was on my Kindle. I think it's on Kindle Unlimited. It's by Tracy Sumner. She's an indie historical romance author.
Oh
The
yeah, yeah,
Brazen
yeah.
Moon
Okay.
Alchemy. So I'm gonna be starting that on my Kindle because I'm reading all this fantasy physically. I need something that's not fantasy on my Kindle when I read at night.
Yeah, the other one I was possibly going to start was the Leon Riley ones, the monster romances, the Stealing a Troll's Heart, and then the second one is Healing the Orc's Heart. These are novellas. And I was like, "Oh, I could do a novella." But
Yeah,
then I didn't start
yeah,
those, so The other one
yeah.
was the
They've been
Dino
going
Smut
into.
book, so I
Yeah,
was
this
like,
is like 250 pages. I don't know what is what makes a novella like how many pages, but this one's 250. So it's like I feel like that's like a historical romance novella.
I thought it was anything under 250 pages, but I've heard people say anything under 300 pages. So I was like, okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Well, whatever. I have so
The
many books
powers
on
that be.
my Kindle. I was also thinking of just doing like because Monster Romance has been my like light palette cleanser
Mm.
stuff. Because a lot of them I like them adorable. I like the adorable monsters. I don't want dark monster. Well, I mean, I'll like the dark monsters too, but I'm just I don't
That's fun.
know. There is
But
a
I
d-
am
an
excited. Go
oh
ahead.
sorry. There's an adorable shifter romance that I really want to read. It says a polar expedition. It's by Casso Shire. He's a polar bear shifter, and I really want to read it. He's like a stalker polar bear shifter.
Who is that by?
Cass O'Shire. It says a polar expedition and other stimulating research opportunities. And I think it's a spicy shifter romance. And the heroine's plus size and not white. So I was like, I need to read this.
Well, he looks intimidating.
Right? It
Just kind of
cracks
creepy
me.
behind that tree.
The here, I'll put this up on the screen. It
Yeah,
cracks me up how he's a freaking polar bear. And I'm like, sir, you are not hiding from anyone behind that tree. Okay, you are a white polar bear hiding behind a dark tree that you are even whiter than, sir. Okay. So I just really I've been wanting to read that one, but it's making me feel more December vibes. So I'm like, maybe next month.
I don't know. Well, I think we're reading A House of Sky and Breath next month.
We
That's
are reading A House of Sky and Breath this month.
wait, it is November,
It's
isn't it? I have that
November.
right. My brain is on October from our last
It is.
literally like 3 weeks, Crystal. In three
It's
weeks, Crystal, you have
it's
your last.
no, it's November 5th. It's Christmas time already, okay?
Yeah, I'm like my brain is over like it's still October, right? Like, no, that was last week, Crystal.
We are
I think
finally reading A House of Sky and Breath next for our
I know
next
we both been needing to read that one. It's funny.
the amount of TBRs that I've put this book on.
It's just kind of sad.
Like, no, I'm
I'll
not gonna
get
read
to
it.
it this month, I promise.
I always look this is my fantasy shelf behind me, and I always look there for it. I'm like, but I put it on my romance shelf, which is the other one. And I'm like, oh, I don't know which shelf to put it on. So I was like, whatever. Put it on the romance shelf, I guess. I love how my shelves are like non-romance and romance. So that's my shelves. Yeah,
That's great.
literally no other organization other than that.
Yeah, I'm going to be filming a book haul this week because it's been months since I have a lot of stuff that's happened. So my book haul has accumulated because it's been a while. And
Uh-huh.
then people have been requesting me to do a bookshelf tour and things like that. So I'm like, yeah, sure. It's gonna take a while, so I'm gonna have to do the book haul, and then I'm gonna do a physical TBR video, and then do a book organization shelf tour. So I'm like, guys, it's gonna take a bit, just so you guys know.
Oh man. I don't think I've
It's
ever
gonna be a
done
process.
like a legit shelf tour of my historical romance shelf.
Mm.
I know I've done these two and maybe like a quick overview of the other one, but I was kind of thinking of doing one of those, but meh.
I
It
know the
does take a
historical
lot.
ones. The historical ones, I'm definitely, at least for my physical TBR, I'm definitely gonna have to separate that out. Be like, hey guys, this whole shelf is historicals that I had not read. There you go.
Like, I don't know anything about these books. Okay.
I don't
I bought
know.
them because they're pretty, and that's it.
And they had certain tropes that they're authors that I heard of, and there's certain tropes
Yeah,
that I
I
love. So
saw it online, and I
I
wanted
saw
it.
it in the book. I saw it at a library book sale, and that's why.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't do those. I need to do more of those. I never know when they are, and, like, they say, "Oh, they'll be posted on Facebook or Friends of the Library," or whatever
Mhm.
sales. Mine don't do that. It's like I've never
Mine,
seen
mine are.
one.
I've been really lucky. Mine are great that I've been able to. I literally just got attended one this weekend. It was a. They only have it 2 times a year. It's actually the library in my town. I got some books, so yeah.
Yay! I can't wait to see it. I love me a good
Mm,
book haul. I think we all love a good book haul.
yeah,
I know, like everyone's like, "Oh, it's just another book haul," but I love a good book haul.
I'm nosy. I'm a nosy Nelly. I'm like, what she
I'm
got?
nosy. That's what it is. I'm nosy. That's why I like vlogs too, because I'm way nosy about where everybody lives and what y'all do. I'm like, oh yes, I am not alone. I have crap all over my house too.
Yeah, like you're a real person.
You're
Okay.
a real person. Yay! Me too. Oops. I'm pressing buttons here. Anyways, so to wrap up, we loved this book.
Yes, all-time favorite.
All-time favorite. I don't know about all-time favorite, but it's definitely my top
One
of
of
the
my
year. I think it's gonna end up being my top of the year for sure.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
so
think it's
happy
gonna
about
be.
it.
I know. I don't know. Now
But
do
we
I
haven't
should
read
I?
House of Sky and Breath yet.
I know we need to read that too.
Did you like the first Crescent City?
I rated it 5 stars only because of the ending, but it was not my favorite of all of her. I read all of her books. It
Okay.
wasn't my favorite of like I still prefer Octar. That's the one I read first. Um, Throne of Glass is second, and I think Crescent City. I think because I didn't like the main character as much in the beginning. Um, but it was still pretty epic, and I felt like for some reason for me the writing still feels kind of. And the Crescent City one, it felt a little what I call removed. I didn't feel connected with the characters or the writing as much as I have in her other books. So I don't know. I'm hoping the second book helps solve that. But it's still Sarah J. Maas. I'm still gonna read her auto buy and read all of her books.
I
But yeah,
never
it's still
read
important. Sure.
the Throne of Glass series, and I don't intend to.
Me too.
I'm not gonna read it. It's not I can't get into another freaking 9 book series. I just can't do it. I'm sure it's good. I have no doubt that I would like it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna
Too
do
much
it.
of a commitment.
It's too much of a commitment. I can't do it. I don't mind getting into series as they're going along, but something about backlisted series, I can't do it. I can't, like,
I love that actually. I like going back and discovering books or maybe books that weren't talked about because at the time booktube wasn't a thing or something like that.
yeah.
So
I'm also not a
I'll always
binger,
do that.
so, like, I feel like, if I was a binger, I would love going back and doing backlisted series that I have never read from, but, like, I need a break.
Yeah.
I need a break. So, I loved Crescent City too. I mean, the Crescent City also, but, I don't remember anything about it.
I know
I
I have to
remember
watch
there being
someone
an otter
explain.
and some girl with rainbow hair. And I remember Bryce being a party girl, and I
I
remember there
remember like
being
the
absolutely no sex scenes in it. So, those are the kind of things I remember.
I remember like the ending, like the big battle kind of fight at the end. So I
Nope.
remember that.
I need to watch somebody's recap. Oh,
I know me too. There you go.
I
Me
don't
too. I'm gonna
remember.
have to do that too.
I know, and, Jess just did a recap of, Fourth Wing, just from Honest
Which is
Fiction.
good
I need to watch that.
because I'm actually you I stopped reading Crush because I'm like I just not in the mood for that one. 'Cause I was listening to that on any play, so I'm like I switched to Fourth Wing. Like oh I'll just do a recap, and I'm like gosh darn it, when's Iron Flame getting here? Like I don't know.
Ready for my coffee. It's so funny
I
because
just
I gave that one 4 stars. I loved it, but, like, I wasn't, like, a super duper fan of it, but I am ready for the next book. Like, I'm ready for it. Like, it was really good. I thought it was really, like, CW-y, so fun. Like, I just thought it was a really fun book, and I think it's gonna be
entertaining. Yeah.
maybe a little darker in the second one. I'm kinda hoping for that, but we'll see. I am
Yeah.
hoping it for
Um,
to take, like, a dark turn. We'll see, though. I don't know if it
yeah.
will.
Yeah, I loved it. It was 5 stars for me. I
Yeah.
definitely I definitely just I don't know. There's just so many releases and fantasies and stuff like
So
that.
many real so many fantasy releases, and I just haven't been reading them.
Well, me being sick, I think that's part of it. It's like me being sick. I'm like I was thinking I'd be farther along, but like when I'm sick, I'm like I can barely don't have the energy to read. So I'm like
I
I
never
think
have
we're
the
all like
energy to
that.
read either. I, like,
I was able to.
zone out on YouTube when I'm sick. Like, that's all I can't even stand a movie or TV show. It's too much brain power to, like, keep up
Mhm.
with, so I totally zone out on YouTube videos when I'm
Yeah, I
sick,
mean that was me. I was just
if I'm
like
not sleeping.
I think I started Buffy the Vampire Slayer a little bit, so I started watching that a little bit while I was sick. But like it's that and YouTube videos. I'm like that was it.
Well, I'm so happy you're not sick anymore.
I know I was so
Um,
back in action.
yeah, and then the next live show is the last Sunday of the month, 6 o'clock,
When
November
yeah,
26th. Is that Thanksgiving? Is it? No, it's not Thanksgiving. Is it?
It's
Before
the
Thanksgiving?
weekend of the Thanksgiving. It's
Okay.
after. It's like the Sunday after.
I better check to make sure that I'm here.
Okay.
I'm supposed to go
If
camping.
not, we can always do December 3rd or
Yeah,
the
we could always
19th.
push back too. And I'm probably gonna start the book soon because it will take me a long time to read.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be starting it by the end of this weekend, that's for sure. If it's
Okay, that's what I
once
was
I'm
kind
done
of
with Fire and Flame.
yeah, I'm gonna give myself some because I think I will absolutely pick up Iron Flame as soon as it's here, and then, after that book, I'll
Mine,
read House of Sky Breath. So
my
DM me
Amazon said it's not
if
gonna
you're
be
reading
the
it.
14th.
What's
No,
that?
well, no, my Amazon said it's not gonna get here to the 14th. I'm like, what the? Like, it releases the 7th. You tell me it's gonna take me a week to get here?
Where are you
What
getting it
kind of
from? Mine's on Amazon. It better not say the
Amazon?
14th. Shut up.
I'm not
No,
an
it better not
Amazon
say that.
Prime member because I'm cheap. So
Oh, it
because
shouldn't matter.
I'm already paying them for Kindle Unlimited. They're milking me already.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh my god, I almost freaked out because it says previously expected December 20th. Now it says Tuesday. What?
Yeah,
And of
mine
course,
says 14th through the 16th expected arrival, but you guys are killing me.
okay, yeah, no, mine says Tuesday. And then I do have the next
So,
Crescent City on pre-order. That's the only other pre-order, but oh no, I have Fate of Ink and Blood on pre-order too. That's way in February. And I already read that.
yeah, let me know if we need to move because of the Thanksgiving. But
I will. I
I
think I'll
don't
be fine.
I don't hmm
I'm not staying overnight, so I just might be tired.
yeah.
But
I think I
I'm
might.
excited.
I don't know.
I
I'm
look
like I
forward.
might have to start Crescent City 2 this coming weekend because I feel like Iron Flame isn't going to get here until the following weekend, and then I'm going to be really behind.
Oh, freaking
I'm like
mail.
looking at the
So
calendar.
rude.
I know
How do
how
I
rude
plan
is
my
that.
life if I can't plan my deliveries?
Did you like the panic of everyone with the cover image being changed to
You
like
know what?
the normal?
I didn't get a chance to
Like,
panic.
I freaked out for like a second, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it says okay, you
I
pre-ordered
was
it.
scrolling, so I am part of the Entangled Insiders on Facebook. That's like a Facebook group.
Ooh, okay.
And I saw a post on there when I was like looking for a message for my mom, and like somebody said, "Don't freak out." I was like, "Okay, what am I not freaking out about?" And they're like, "Oh, just Amazon has a picture glitch, whatever. You're still getting your black sprayed edges." I'm like, "Oh, whatever. They're just black. I could spray those edges myself if I really wanted to. If I couldn't, you know what I mean?"
Hmm.
It's not like the stenciled ones are pretty. Like I like stenciled, but like I could see black sprayed edges myself. Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed they weren't doing anything special with these ones. Like, why aren't you doing stenciled? I'm like, that would make it even better, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
At least you're doing twin
Anyways,
edges. I mean,
I know. At least they're doing something. Who knows? But anyways, it's getting to be that time. I'm gonna go. I have to go watch Five Nights at Freddy's with my family. Don't really want to.
you guys, that's I've been seeing commercials for that everywhere, and I'm just like
Freaks me
creeped out
out.
so
I
bad.
know. I don't like
It's
dolls.
giving me anxiety. I don't even want to watch this movie. I don't want to watch this trailer.
I don't want to. I'm hoping my son gets scared and then we can turn it off. I don't want to watch it.
Oh, well, have fun with that.
I will. All right, everyone, join us next month or this month, later on this month for House of Sky and Breath. So, see y'all
All
later.
right,
Bye.
bye.